各位观众，大家下午好，很荣幸能在这里在好事参与这个活动，然后分享一下。今天我会用英语来给人家分享。So today. Very happy to speak to you and give you a little bit of insight about the opportunities for agri-food tech startups in Southeast Asia and how we can leverage collaboration with Singapore as well as Innovate 360 and 好事 to really help startups to scale. So this is me, I'm John. 我华文名是钟程龙，然后我是家族企业from a third generation business family, and I founded Innovate 360 in 2018. So I also founded Feed 9 Billion, which is an open innovation platform to support, to bring together public-private partnership together to feed 9.8 billion people. And this is a non-profit organization. We work together. Actually, the co-founders was actually Temasek Poly, SIM, Focused Ventures, and Innovate 360. So one of the things that we do is raise awareness of food innovation, sustainability, and try to promote collaboration. And in 2019, we launched the Good Food Startup Manual together the Good Food Institute. And that's really a manual that will help startups to kind of understand the food ecosystem and landscape, help them navigate difficulties in setting up a business. So in 2021, we launched the second edition of we actually launched the alternative protein database. And that was really focused on helping startups to get resources that they require for their startup. And last year, we launched the Singapore Restaurant Week together with the Singapore Tourism Board to promote alternative proteins. So we had cell-based, not one, but 4 cell-based companies showcase their foods in restaurants across Singapore. And this is something that we really hope that will actually get more people to eat more alternative proteins and also help to create impact for sustainability. So these are some of our members, our partners in Feed 9 Billion. We're not just looking at Singapore, but Asia Pacific, and we really want to help grow the ecosystem. Done many activities around the last few years. But today, really, I'm here to really give you the sense of the opportunities that you will get and why you should be looking at Southeast Asia. So I refer to the 2023 State of the Industry Report. This is actually by the Good Food Institute. Public funding is going up. There is, let me not block everyone, but basically you have more than 1 billion spent by governments in Southeast Asia, really trying to push the needle forward in terms of adoption of alternative proteins. Governments around the world, especially in Southeast Asia, also looking at fostering a more supportive regulatory framework, especially for novel ingredients. You have China, you have Korea, New Zealand, Australia, Thailand as well, and even Malaysia, trying to come together in terms of regulations. So that's good news for a lot of the agri-food tech startups. And of course, private funding. What's public funding without private funding? So private funding is also going up as well. You can see the countries are really coming in terms of investment. And you can see a big chunk of it from Singapore as well. Singapore, Japan, and Australia, New Zealand. And a lot of it is, especially in Singapore, we are looking at not just plant-based, but cultivated meat, precision fermentation as well, which is being supported by the the private sector. So this is the all-time invested capital. It's all in US dollars. So this is something really exciting for a lot of the startups to come into Southeast Asia. And of course, consumer insights. 42% of survey respondents out of 6,000 over people were surveyed across Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Korea, and a lot of other countries. And they've come back to say that they want to try more plant-based. And another interesting insight, again, they want food to be, they are price conscious, they want taste, they want convenience. These are some of the key insights they are looking at. So these are things that I think between Singapore and Taiwan, there's a lot of opportunity in doing that. So if you want to find out more, it's a few hundred-page report. You can actually download it from here. And I think you've really heard a little bit of the opportunity side. And what's interesting is how we can bring startups together through 好事 and Innovate 360 between Singapore and Taiwan, closer together in this. But before we go into that, let's talk about the Singapore story. The Singapore food story is a very interesting one. Which is something that I think many of you might not know. Singapore is only about 720 square kilometers. It's really very small. It's a tiny island in the world. And only 1% of that land is used for farming. So we have a big problem. We have 5 over million people, almost 6 million people in Singapore, and we need to feed so many people. But we only have less than 1% of land. We import 90% of our food. And, that's a big problem. In 2018, they actually came back. We produce about 25% of eggs, maybe 14% of vegetables, and maybe 10% of fish. The meat, most of it is imported. So how do we survive? And also, in terms of where we import from 170 over countries, so that we have enough food on the table. But that's where it's interesting. The Singapore government has 3 main strategies. Firstly, they try to grow overseas. They encourage our farmers to go out to different countries, produce there, and then bring it back to Singapore. That's one strategy. Another is, like I mentioned earlier, we import from 170 countries. So that's kind of our way to diversify. And last but not least, in 2019, the Singapore government announced the 30 by 30 plan. And that is really the crux of where we are today. With the 30 by 30 plan, the government spent about $300 million on R&D and innovation, really to capture this ecosystem to produce at least 30% of our nutritional needs by 2030. So this is where we have come since then. I had a very good opportunity when we first started Innovate 360 to actually try cell-based shrimps. So the picture on the top is me trying siu mai, the world's most expensive siu mai. It costs US $5,000 per kg in 2019. Today they built their pilot plant. They are starting to go into piloting, and it'll take a few more years before they actually get somewhere. I've tried insect proteins, plant-based eggs, and we even have soy wine made of tofu liquid. So you imagine a packet of tofu, you take that liquid and you make it into alcohol. So these are some of the startups that we have seen at Innovate 360. And very fortunate to try some of the foods here. So in 2020 December or 2021, they actually approved the sale of cell-based meats. So Singapore is one of the first countries in the world that approved the sale of cell-based meats. I got to try the Good meat. It's basically chicken cells made in the lab. After that, I also tried impact fat, which is cell-based fats, fish fats. Even as far as Israel, they've came down to serve their cell-based beef. And I've had that as well. And then also we have umami, which is like a fish ball. And then Evan meat from Hong Kong, which is basically your fish maw. And so these are different startups from all over the world coming to Singapore because of our regulatory and because of 30 by 30. And so, right now, you may not be able to try the ones above, but in Singapore, you can actually find Cool House, which is grown through precision fermentation. They take microflora, plant-based, to make something that is like your whey protein. And that's something that you can actually buy off supermarkets in Singapore. More recently, in 2022, Singapore's government has just approved the startup Solar Foods, which basically does precision fermentation, producing protein from the air. So this is a quick video about Innovate 360 now that you've heard about the opportunities and how Singapore's stories come about. Let's hear about Innovate 360. So, like Hao Shi, we were founded in 2018, and we are Singapore's first food accelerator with facilities, and also we work together very closely with the Singapore government to give out grants to our startups and to help overseas startups land in Singapore. We also provide the entrepreneurship pass so that they can work on their startup in Singapore with this entrepreneurship pass. So I come from a third generation family business, and this was initially a part of where we wanted to kind of innovate. And today we have 3 facilities. We have 2 more coming up next year and in 2025. And what we provide is co-working spaces, kitchen, labs, production spaces. We also have our accelerator, our ecosystem, and our venture fund. So these are some of the spaces. I think some of the leadership in Hao Shi came visit us last November. And we cover 11 out of the 17 UN SDGs. And we help startups to really tap into the ecosystem, not just tap onto Innovate 360, but really to help you to understand your place in the ecosystem and reach out to potential partners, alliances, universities, corporates as well. And of course, very importantly, our global network that we have kind of gathered over the last couple of years. And this is where you have access to all these markets through us. And like Hao Shi, we also have our mentors as well. And we tap a lot of these mentors really to have the one-to-one time with our startups to really help them to grow, scale, and connect. And how we differentiate ourselves is we really are industry, by industry, for industry. And we also, recently we just, actually this year, we just got appointed by Nestle as the first accelerator in Asia to actually work with them in terms of their talent program. So they selected 10 of their most very talented staff to actually mentor startups for a 1-year period. And that's where they have that one-to-one interaction, learn about how they can really fit their business towards MNC in hopes of one day M&A opportunities. And then, of course, we have our own fund as well. So it's a $30 million US fund. We invest in early stage to Series A startups, anything from 200,000 to 3 million. And we invest in 4 verticals. And we also have the grant that is really to support startups at the early stage, which is equity free. So these are some of our startups. The video that you saw earlier was shot in 2021. Today we have 120 startups already. And they focus on deep tech, agri-tech, food sustainability, and health and wellness. So I'll share a little bit more on why Singapore in a short while. And these are some of our startups. So Shok Meats, one of our first few startups doing cell-based shrimps. We have Turtle Tree Labs, who is now based in the US. They are doing lactoferrin, precision fermentation, and cell culture of milk. So please meet Betty from Confetti. We have a few startups that I wanted to share. Betty started with a very simple idea of making vegetable chips from ugly vegetables, the ones that you see in the supermarkets, you press, and then you choose which is nicest, but then it's not so nice, so then you put it back. So she takes ugly vegetables, turns it into vegetable chips, and then she started selling in 2019. And then after that, she went on to sell across Singapore. Today, she's now based in the US. She's trying to hit 500 stores by the end of this year. She's very close to that number already. And we have Float Foods, another of our startup, Vanita. So Vanita, actually, she is making plant-based egg. And you can see the bottom there. It's a poached egg, where you imagine you have jelly, and then you open a packet of jelly. You imagine pouring out the poached egg and then cutting it into it, and that's what it will look like. So she's being able to sell not only in Singapore, she's gone to Malaysia, Dubai, Australia as well. Really trying to scale around Asia, but around the world as well. This is Rina, Dr. Rina from Shandi. Their product is called Forever Meat, and they have the largest production facility in Singapore. They do about 500 kg per hour, and that comes with no easy feat. Their co-founders, basically the founders are scientists, and they are really trying to sell their plant-based concept to Europe, and then they're hoping to open a factory in Canada as well. So they are starting to sell to all the hospitals, restaurants, schools around Asia as well. So these are some of our media profile events that we've done since 2018. Even mentions in Parliament by our Deputy Prime Minister. But I think why Singapore is, why I'm speaking here today is really to share a little bit more why Singapore is interesting and exciting for a lot of you startups here today. It's really because of the landscape. We are also a free trade. There's a lot of free trade agreements. Our Singapore 30 by 30 plan, as well as a very pro-enterprise business landscape. So the one startup came to me and said, we love Singapore because the government calls me every day, not to complain or to, check on me, but they check on me to say, hey, do you need any help? So this is the kind of support level that you get in Singapore. So it's really the strong public-private partnership that you see in Singapore. And then, of course, there's a lot of support for startups besides the grants. There's also the infrastructure. So there is a couple of infrastructures besides Innovate 360 in Singapore. and there's a lot of VCs, accelerators. There are about 800 family offices reported in 2022. So that number is still growing. I think now it's about 1,002 family offices. So then there is also funding support for startups. And then finally, again, industry as well. There's a lot of this kind of platforms for you in Singapore as well to access, to really help your startup. So I think that is where I like to, encourage all of you to think about where and how we can collaborate. Obviously, between Innovate 360 and 好事, there is a lot of opportunity for us to bring the startups over and also for our startups to come over here. So with that, I end the presentation and I really thank you for listening. Please feel free to give me a contact. This is my LinkedIn. Happy to exchange contacts after this. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate for your sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.